Reddit, what is on your anti-bucket list, things you will never do again? Visit tourist attractions during peak season in China. I lost my mind on an hourly basis. The crowds have no mercy. Get cheap airline tickets for an itinerary that involves me sleeping on the floor of an airport overnight. I have done this twice. Actually. And both times it was cold, loud, gross, and miserable. Never again. Edit. Bonus. One time it was my honeymoon. I don't know what we're thinking other than just saving some money. When I was 22 I had with a woman almost twice my age. Now I'm 60. I don't think I want to do that again. I won't have another kid. My has experienced enough. I'll probably not ride on another roller coaster. I'm fine being the guy in the group guarding everyone's bags. Bungee jumping. I essentially gave myself whiplash and injured my back. Was in agony for a couple of weeks. Visit Milan again. The roving bands of aggressive pickpockets put me off completely. I will never send my nudes to anyone again. I may show it to my boyfriend on my phone. But I will never send it. Threesome. It was too awkward and uncoordinated. At the end of it, everyone felt very unfulfilled and uncomfortable. Skydive. Scared the out of me lol. Let a friend in need stay with me. Sounds cold. But the one time I have done this ended in absolute disaster. 0 tenths would not recommend. Get an engineering degree. Don't regret it, but man, parts of it really sucked. Backpack in India. I'm pretty chill. And had backpacked around Southeast Asia and South America before. But India was a whole other ballgame. I'm glad I did it. But my husband and I basically had to take turns freaking out. It took me about a full week before I could eat because everything was so dirty and crowded and smelly it just turned my appetite. After a week though I ate. The food in India is amazing. Diarrhea didn't even stop me from gaining weight. India is a shock to all your senses. I thought I knew what I was walking into, but I had no idea. I had many magical moments. Which is what makes India so incredible. I was standing on a balcony in Varanasi overlooking the Ganges River and watching the kite wars while listening to solemn music and chanting of the funerals where they burn the bodies and send them into the river. It was so beautiful it will stay with me forever. It was like going back in time 1,000 years, and that experience is irreplaceable. I was in awe of the beauty and extremely devastated about the extreme poverty and disregard for human life. I had also thought I was going to die so many times there. From crazy tuk-tuk rides. Almost getting ran over. Food poisoning. ECT. I'm just older now and couldn't do that trip again. General admission seating at a Pearl Jam show. To get a good spot you have to show up hours before the show and wait in line. And then when you get in and get your spot, you still have to wait over an hour before the show starts, and if you even think about leaving to go to the bathroom or get some drinks, getting back to your spot is next to impossible. Nothing against people who prefer GA seating, my wife is one of them, it's just not for me. I like being able to pregame before the show, time that would be wasted waiting in line, and then when you get inside. I like having a seat and knowing I don't have to basically battle for space. I like being able to go take a during a song I don't like as much, or when Eddie starts rambling between songs for too long. It's nice to have those conveniences and makes me enjoy the show more. I know it's kinda lame for a 28-year-old to feel this way, but oh well, I like what I like. Scuba dive. I found out the hard way that I'm extremely claustrophobic. Eat clams. I despise seafood, but I let my friends talk me into finally trying them. Did not enjoy the experience, and I just don't need to do it again. The drop ride at the Canadian version of Six Flags. I was swearing the whole time and I'm pretty sure someone got me at camera. Go to any high school reunions. The company that does my reunion charges too much, and the only time I went 10-year, a lot of the people I wanted to see weren't there. Social media makes it easy for me to keep up with the people I want. The rest, I just don't care. Go to Oktoberfest in Munich. Once was enough. The crowds. The harassment. The hassle it was to sit and get a drink. It was just too much. We hadn't planned on going to Germany for Oktoberfest. It just happened that we would be in the area at the same time. So we thought, why not? Go to Mardi Gras in New Orleans in the French Quarter. Specifically Bourbon Street. The amount of people is insane. I've heard it compared to Nye in New York with the sheer amount of people. My best advice is anyone were to consider going. Wear comfortable shoes that you won't feel bad about throwing away. Because you will step in bodily fluids at least once. Try to move up within a company. That companies love to have overqualified, overperforming, underpaid people in their lower-level positions. Find a job somewhere else. Don't send pics to people you don't know intimately. It doesn't matter if they reciprocate. People can be strange creatures and you don't know who you're really talking to on the other side of the keyboard. Sent pics to someone who turned out to be a complete Fruit Loop and was good at manipulation. One person asked for my IM handle on Twitter because he had some bad news about the Fruit Loop. Sent me screenshots of chats he'd had with Mr. Loop where he had randomly sent people my pictures and acting exactly like the crazy ex-girlfriend meme. Scary stuff. I hadn't spoken to Fruit Loop in months at this point, but as you can imagine, I was livid. This was the one and only time I've ever called someone out on Twitter. Some other people came forward to share their experiences. And so much hate had been piled on the madman that he locked his Twitter account almost immediately. Then, other vulnerable people he had manipulated had all started barking about how he was committing suicide. He claimed he was going to poison himself with mercury. Few months if not over a year pass, and I see hints that he's totally fine and probably still manipulating people to giving him pics. I know he asked a few people to make a mold of their dicks so he could make. Yeah. People be crazy. Field Medic Training Battalion in North Carolina. Everything is sticky. Everyone is miserable. J-ville is a crappy town. And the pizza on base is. Oh. And the skin on my feet still has yet to grow back from the hikes and I'm likely infertile due to the tainted water supply out there. Fun times. Medication withdrawal. I take antidepressants. But around a year ago I convinced myself to stop taking them altogether since my prescription was running out. I was at a low point and logic was just out the window. I was on a fairly high dosage so that amplified the symptoms. Lost my freaking mind for around 11 days until I got the refill. Never again. Never. Ever wean off antidepressants on your own. It's a slow, steady process you have to discuss with your doctor. Tooth extraction without sedation. Best $200 I ever spent was to be put under for all that. Going to North Korea. I have been there once but will not want to go again. Clean out a hoarder's home. Once is enough for a lifetime. Spend time in a flotation isolation tank. When the lights went out, I had a full-blown panic attack. I never knew how terrifying complete darkness could be. Having a baby. Pregnancy is a shoot. Some people love it. I hated it. There's a huge difference between pulling an all-nighter and 3 months of chronic sleep deprivation. I could not hang. When my son turned a year old, I got sterilized. And when I turned 35, I had a hysterectomy. It was for unrelated reasons. But I was so happy that I didn't have to worry about that minuscule risk of pregnancy. It's all good. My son is 13 now. And he is kind, compassionate, and hilarious. Buy a house. Number 3 on my biggest regrets. Pretending to be straight. Got into some relationships I didn't want to be in just to be played. Used and have the approval from my parents. My mental health was on an all-time low. But now I'm out and proud. Mental health on the best way of recovery. Get married. Once is enough. Get drunk. Currently got 5.5 months sober. Climb Mount Fuji. While it was a memorable experience, it was exhausting as the food and drink at the huts along the mountain are expensive, about 500 yen. $4.97 give or take for a cup of instant noodles. The ones you can buy a case of at Walmart for the same price. On top of that, we didn't have enough money to get the bus back to Tokyo and there are no ATMs at the shops at the base. I bit the bullet and asked some Americans for the last 400 yen we needed. On a positive note, sunrise at the summit is beautiful. Go to Disney. I actually consider it torture. It's too hot. You walk all day. It's ridiculously expensive. The lines are long. Go through an armed robbery. My parents and I were tied up in the living room while the robbers trashed the house. Got kicked and beat it as well. -10 out of 10. Edit. What happened? We don't know how the two guys got onto our property. Basically we have 4 meters high walls and electric fences around our property. I was watching TV in our living room when the robbers walked in. One put a gun to my head and my parents walked in as this was happening. They tied us up. Beat my dad and myself. They took our cars, TVs, jewelry etc. When they left we phoned the police. Unfortunately they were never caught.